Chasing the Mind, podcast number 16. Season of Compassion with Rick Doane. Welcome to Chasing the Mind, hosted by Dr. Angela Johnson and Dr. Stephanie Schwartz, the podcast that explores the art and science of the mind. Each episode, we will feature a topic or guest who offers a unique perspective in answering the following questions. How do our thoughts influence our sense of who we are? How do we impact the world around us? And can changing our minds change everything? Today on Chasing the Mind, Dr. Angela and Dr. Stephanie talk to Rick Doane, Executive Director of Interfaith Social Services.
It's Dr. Angela, and I have to say the episode you're going to listen to next is probably one of the most profound ones we've done, and really it's probably one of the ones that I'm most proud of. You're going to hear from Rick Doane, who's the Executive Director of Interfaith Social Services. It's a local nonprofit here in Quincy, Massachusetts that provides food, counseling. They provide help to those who are on the verge of homelessness. They offer so many services. And what Rick is going to communicate more than anything else is that these kinds of programs don't exist without people like me and you. Dr. Stephanie and I have both been intimately involved with Interfaith Social Services. Stephanie was a volunteer for many years. I've also volunteered and sat on the board. And I think that for us, as we go into the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas, it becomes so easy to forget that there are so many people that need our help. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope it motivates you to be compassionate in your community, however you choose to do that. I'm Dr. Angela Johnson.
And I am Dr. Stephanie Schwartz.
And we are very excited today. We have Rick Doane, who is the Executive Director of Interfaith Social Services with us.
Hi.
Well, tell us about Interfaith Social Services.
Well, this is our 70th anniversary this year. So Interfaith Social Services was founded 70 years ago here in Quincy, Massachusetts, after World War II. And there was a crisis in the community, and people wanted to get together and help their neighbors in need. And we've been doing that for the last 70 years.
Wow. That's exciting to have a big anniversary like that.
It is. It's a big year for us, but it's a legacy of people helping their neighbors in need. That's what it's about.
Well, what was going on at the time? Can you tell us a little bit about the history of when it started?
Sure. Here in Quincy is where many of the shipyards for World War II were built. And so after World War II, when they were stopping production, they weren't building all the ships, thousands and thousands of people were losing their jobs. Families were falling apart. There were kids on the street. And so local churches wanted to step in and do something to help. And that was the roots of our organization. We started off doing group homes and foster care before the state, federal government was doing anything like that. And we did that for many years. And all of our programs that we currently offer grew out of that. And the one bedrock foundation program we had was our counseling center. And many of the programs we have today grew out of that counseling center.
Wow. I mean, one of the things that sort of initially drew me to Interfaith is the fact that the three big programs you have now are homelessness prevention, aiding in food insecurity, the food pantry, and the counseling center, three things I'm really passionate about. So maybe you could tell us in a little more detail about the programs that are there now.
Well, the counseling center was going on for many years, helping people. And it was in the 70s that the counselor said, you know what, some of our clients could really use some food. And there wasn't the infrastructure of food pantries and emergency food programs like we have today. The only idea around emergency food back in the 70s and 60s, it was soup kitchens. And so we started just a small closet. And as counseling clients came in that needed a little bit of extra help, the counselors would go over and get them some food. And it started out of a pantry. That's what it was, a food pantry. And in the past 40 years, it's grown to be one of the largest emergency food programs in Greater Boston. Similarly, we saw in the 90s. In the 90s, there were people who were coming in that were going back to work, that were struggling to make ends meet. And it was our counselors that really brought this to our attention, that they said, this is a need that we see in the community. We want to help them. So we started our emergency assistance program. We started trying to prevent homelessness just by eviction prevention. Mm-hmm. If you help someone with a small bill, you can prevent somebody from being out on the street. And so that's what we focus on, really sustainable situations. Our thrift shop started off about the same time in the 70s to sustain our other programs. But we like to bill ourselves as a one-stop shop for families in need.
Wow. Well, and that ties into one of the questions we had, which is like to tell us a little bit about the kinds of people that come in for help.
So there are all kinds of people. We are the safety net. In our counseling center, the people that we see, they're referred mostly from other counseling centers. So when they come through our doors, there's the idea that they're an indigent population, and it's not in any way. We do help people that can't afford to get services anywhere else, and that is a significant portion of our clients. But another big portion of our clients are the people that need help right away. They call up a counseling center and they can't get in for 3 months.
Right.
They can't get in for 4 months. That's when those counseling centers refer those people to us. And so that's, as far as counseling, those are the people we're seeing. These are people from all walks of life, but really the people that need help right away.
I think people don't realize how fragmented and fragile our mental health system is in this country. The fact that, like you said, there's underrepresented availability in terms of mental health services. Even in a place like Boston, which has a huge density of mental health services compared to other places in the country, there's still a lot of need that outstrips the availability. And very few places with sort of a sliding scale availability.
Right.
Even community mental health centers do not have any kind of sliding scale availability. You have insurance or you pay the full freight out of pocket, period.
Well, and what we've seen, the trend over the last 2 years, it's been people that can't afford, not the copay, it's the deductibles.
Right.
Deductibles have gone up so much. And these are people whose employers, they have insurance through their employers, but when they have to go in and they have to pay that huge deductible before the insurance kicks in, those are increasingly the people we're seeing. It's middle class. It's middle class people that just can't make ends meet, but they need the services.
I was talking to someone about healthcare who was saying in the way deductibles were conceived, it was supposed to be a speed bump. Copays were supposed to be a speed bump, so people sort of think about the cost as they're getting services, and they've turned into a wall.
Right.
Yeah, a barrier. There's already so many stigmas and barriers that are stopping people from getting treatment.
Exactly.
And this should not be, we don't need to create more of them. They're already there in our society and our culture.
And one of the things you said too, which, ties into this, the idea that people are, a lot of people live very precariously. They're on the edge. They're vulnerable. And so it takes one or two big things, and then they're looking at possibly being evicted, looking at being able to not buy food, and things like getting health care, getting access to a counselor when you need it. That's a big expense for a lot of people. Yeah.
I mean, and it's basic things too. It's car repairs people don't think about.
Right.
If you're living paycheck to paycheck, a car repair can be disastrous.
Yes.
And you have to repair the car because you have to get to work, but then it's that spiral. Then you don't have the money for the rent, and you don't have the money for food, and you don't have money for that copay, and or a death in the family. So forget the emotional ramifications of losing somebody. The financial repercussions have, put families into this downward spiral of, I had to spend all my money on so-and-so's funeral. Now, how are we going to pay this bill? How are we going to do that? And then they're constantly trying to catch up and can't do it.
Right.
I mean, you talked about the time when Interfaith was founded, and there was very little social safety net.
Yeah.
And over the years, there began to be the understanding that there needed to be a social safety net. And the pendulum has swung back in the other direction, where people don't really understand, as you said, the disaster that can happen with one small event, car repair bill, death,
medical expenses.
Expenses. One thing can really be disastrous for an individual or a family. And because in more recent times there was more of a social safety net, people don't really get it. And the social safety net has eroded over the past couple decades to a degree where we're going back.
Well, and that's one of the things that makes us different is because it's privately funded. There's always the idea that, that the private sector can make up for this and the philanthropy can make up to it. No. We are, we're scratching the surface. It's a very small portion of the population that we're actually helping. You need that government help. You need those policies, as you can't assume that everybody's going to be altruistic. It's just not, it hasn't proven to be the case.
And in difficult financial times, not everybody can afford to be altruistic, even when they're motivated to.
Well, and in times like this, too, you look at, the disasters, the hurricanes down in Texas and Florida and
Puerto Rico.
And all throughout the Caribbean, where everybody's been so generous in giving to those places, and they need it. But it's at the detriment. We know nonprofit organizations, we're going to see less donations this year. And it doesn't mean people shouldn't give, help out people in need, but it's just the reality of philanthropy. There's only a certain number of dollars that are going to go around. And if they give to hurricane relief, they're probably not going to give to their local nonprofit this year.
Wow, so you've seen this cycle before.
Oh, yeah, especially in election years. Election years, notoriously, people are giving that income to a candidate, and then they give less to nonprofits. So coming out of an election year, you look for that little bit of a bump, and then you have disasters like this, and you probably won't see it. But it's about getting the word out, too. The more we tell the story, the more supporters we have coming in. So it'll affect us a little bit, but it's not going to be disastrous for us in any way.
Well, and the nice thing about giving to a charity or giving to an organization like Interfaith is, your dollars are staying in your community, which is one of the things I appreciate about it. Is I know that when I'm helping Interfaith, I'm helping my neighbors. I'm helping the people who live, down the street from me. And a lot of times, you can give money far away, but you don't necessarily see the effects of that as much as you would if it's a local thing. Like I know you could talk a little bit about some of the special programs you do in the community that you can really see a tangible results. And I'm thinking about like the backpack program.
Yeah. We were founded around helping kids. That was the idea. There were kids and families in need in 1947. And so we've tried to stay true to that idea about bringing joy to children by incorporating that in our various programs. And also to help families that are struggling to make ends meet. We have thousands of families coming into our food pantry that cannot afford to put food on their table, let alone buy school supplies for their kids. Buy Halloween costumes for their kids, Christmas gifts, Thanksgiving, Easter baskets. And it's incredible to see how the community rallies when we ask for those donations. And, they're almost self-sustaining now, where there's so many people that are used to it and it's coming in, and it's awesome now that they've been up and going for a while. But one of the trends we've seen, so we were founded by churches, but we're a non-religious organization. We keep the name Interfaith, because that's who founded us. But we live in one of the least religious states in the United States, Massachusetts. The number of people that are involved in their faith community has decreased significantly. But the desire for people to be involved in the community is still there, which is one of the reasons that we see such an outpouring for volunteers. A lot of people want to be in a community, and the churches don't fill that role like they used to, at least here in Massachusetts. That's not the case in many other places in the United States. So we really see a community amongst our volunteers. Each day it's a different crew, and they're really cohesive, great people, and we're grateful for it.
Tell us more about the kinds of people who volunteer.
Well, we've had some wonderful. You have volunteered.
Oh, thank
Angela has volunteered.
Thank you for mentioning that.
It's everybody. It is lawyers and doctors and people who are out of work and people who are clients and a lot of retirees. Generally what we see is people retire, and a year to a year and a half after retirement, that's when they say, I need to be doing something more. And that's when they start volunteering. But last year, it was 23,000 hours of service.
Wow.
That volunteers provided. And our model is based around that idea. We could fundraise just to pay for the staff members to carry out our programs. But I believe in this model. I believe in the community of volunteers helping their community members.
And I've actually seen people come in who are in need, see what's going on, see that it's volunteer run, and say, I want to help too. Yeah. I need this assistance, but I also want to give back.
Yeah.
So that's great as well.
It is. I get to witness true charity every day. I think the term charity has been ruined. It's been turned into, instead of it being an adjective or a verb, it's a dirty noun. Oh, they're a charity case. Oh, I don't want to help that charity. That's not what charity is. Charity is a spirit. Charity is a feeling. It is a motivating factor. And so that's why I never refer to nonprofits as charities. I always call them nonprofit organizations, and charity will encourage people to support a nonprofit organization.
Well, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the kinds of people, that, need assistance. And maybe you could speak to that, some of the misconceptions people have.
Well, for one example, people think about a food pantry and they put it in this, they think about, it's the same people going there and they're really destitute, which is true. Nobody goes to a food pantry because they want to go there. But the majority of the people that we serve are only coming maybe 2 or 3 times, and then they don't come again. They needed help through an emergency. And then maybe after a couple of years, they'll come back again. That's the majority of households that are coming in. Every year, 1/4 to 1/3 of all the people we serve have never been to our food pantry before.
Interesting.
Every year. And so there's this perception that it's, these takers, people that are coming in, and it's not. It is, there are people that have been coming to our food pantry for years, but it is absolutely the minority. I also get the question often, well, what do you do to stop them from going to other food pantries? Nothing. I don't get, if somebody needs food, why would we stop them from going to another food pantry? And we did a survey, and it's 1/3 of our clients need to go to another food pantry. 2/3 just need the help they get from us. We do, around the holidays, we do make sure that there is equitable sharing of resources. So we make sure that nobody needs to get more than 1 turkey for Thanksgiving. So at that point, we do share a list with everybody in the region, and we all make sure that each person's only being served once. Same thing around Christmas. But beyond that, if they need food, help putting food on the table, they can go to as many places as they need to.
And in fact, you provide resources so that people know what other food pantries in the area are.
Yeah, we all collaborate with each other. It's a special place here in the South Shore where we all work closely together. Some places there's a sense of competition, and we really foster collaboration.
Another thing, there's always this thing that kind of goes around on social media about what people should give or shouldn't give to food pantries or places like that. So, people are like, never give food pantries actual food. They'd really rather have checks. And other people are like, no, we actually want food. So answer that question. Should people bring their food to the food pantry? And a check?
I'm going to say some people are capable. If you can donate, your money is going to go further if you give it to the food pantry than if you went and bought it retail. I'll give you an example. You spend, we can buy oranges for 19 cents a pound.
Wow.
Nobody else can. If you took $1 to go buy 2 oranges, an orange at the supermarket, where we can get pounds of oranges for that same $1. It's misplaced altruism. That's the term I use. People want to feel like they're giving a tangible item. And so this is true around food, not so much about Easter, backpacks, Halloween costumes, all of those things. That's different. What everybody else is paying, that's what we'd be paying. So, But as far as food goes, a check, it can go very far. However, we don't get the variety. That we need the donations from the community because it gives us a variety of foods. Whereas when we're getting food from the federal government, the state, when we're getting it at significantly reduced prices, it ends up that we only having a couple of food sources or a couple of types. It's a way to introduce children to altruism, to get them thinking about it. So I think food donations have a role. But let me tell you about Chef Boyardee. Chef Boyardee, we don't know his name. It's an older gentleman who every Monday shows up at the food pantry every Monday morning with a trunk load full of Chef Boyardee.
Wow.
Every single Monday. And so in our food pantry, we have a shelf stocked, and we go through it every week through this trunk load. Now, we've talked to him about maybe using the money differently, and it could go to something different, and we could buy a lot of produce with that. But this is something he chooses to do. We don't know his name. It's anonymous. But this is something he chooses to do, and we would never stock Chef Boyardee. We wouldn't buy that. But the kids that we serve love that stuff.
Right.
And so it's a piece of everything. But yeah, I don't know. That was a very convoluted answer to your question.
No, I mean, I think that's a really nuanced and interesting answer, because I think even for me personally, there are times when I would be able to sort of give a check and times when I wouldn't be able to. But even if I'm not able to, I might be able to put a couple extra items in my cart at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't sort of feel as much of a challenge as coming up with a lump sum once a month or once every however long. And just putting those couple items in your cart and then donating them helps people feel good as well.
It does. And anything that's going to sponsor that idea of community and collaboration and charity, I support it. That's why I never would say no, never. I think it has an important role. But for the bulk of our food, we need cash to do it. I mean, there's no way we could spend retail and pay retail prices to get the food to help all the people, the thousands of people we're serving. It'd just be impossible.
Well, you talked about produce, and I just wanted to mention one of my favorite programs at Interfaith, which is the Seedlings.
Yeah. It was, we wanted to encourage the idea that we need produce. And the way that we did that was by partnering with Cohane Funeral Home. And they donate seedlings every spring so people can plant a row. We call it Plant, Grow, Share, where they plant that seedling and they bring in a portion of the produce to help with the food pantry. Now, it doesn't bring in a significant amount of food every year, but what it does, it gives us the opportunity to talk about the need for fresh produce. Because lots of times people talk about can drives,
right,
when they should be talking about food drives and the need for fresh produce.
Well, not everybody even knows that food pantries take fresh produce.
Yeah, not all of them do. some food pantries, they're all volunteer run. They're open once a month. These don't have the capacity. Larger food pantries where we're serving, hundreds of people every week, as soon as it comes in, it goes out. So we have the capacity.
Well, I think too, like some of the ideas behind the can drives and stuff like that kind of was all when like we were kids. And I think, when there was more of an emphasis on canned foods, or maybe, going back to like a kind of an older mindset. And I think, there is this, sort of forgotten thing of like, we need to provide fresh produce for people, especially, they're feeding their children. They're, trying to provide healthy meals. And you're not just trying to provide food. You're trying to provide well-balanced, healthful meals to people.
Not just calories.
Exactly.
That's the thing. If you think about what you'd want to feed your children, that's what you should be stocking in your food pantry. And that's something we've tried to do. When I started, we had 2 banana boxes, and that was how much produce we had every day. Now we have shelves full of produce. We purchase some, we get it donated, we partner with farms, we have it coming from the community. There's no silver bullet in solving it. It's a lot of different things you need to do.
Do you think there's there's been a lot of conversation in the last couple of years that I've heard around the idea that produce is so much is thrown out because it's not perfect. It doesn't look perfect. I mean, it's part of the way that you're able to provide some of that by partnering with like grocery chains and places like that, where you're getting a bag of apples. Maybe one's dented, two's dented, but you're getting the apples.
Well, actually, the state of Massachusetts was very forward thinking. They passed a law a couple years ago that said you cannot allow more than a ton of organic waste to enter the waste stream every week. So what happened is supermarkets all of a sudden either had to be composted or donated. Now, we were out there asking supermarkets for donations all the time. It wasn't until the state passed that law that it really made a big difference. We saw our donations go way up. And so it was supermarkets that we had approached for years, that we'd been there picking up their day-old bread, asking them every month, can we please get your meat? Can we please get, the produce? And it wasn't until the state did something. But even then, there's stuff we can't even use. It's so rotten or whatever it is. So we've partnered with New England Wildlife Center here in Weymouth near us. And so we keep all of those bruised and beat up things that really are inedible for humans. And they're feeding all of the raccoons and possums and ducks and other animals that they're taking care of because they were paying retail for that. And one of our volunteers happened to also volunteer there, put us in touch, and it's great. So now there's even less going into the waste stream, and it's helping out a different kind of little furry clients.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, it's about sustainability. I mean, that's a great way. That's a great example of sustainability.
And community and collaboration and the idea of looking up and looking around and saying, who can I work with and how?
I mean, in social psychology, there have been studies about, the idea of can you change people's minds through legislation or through rules. A lot of people have the misconception that you can't legislate attitude change. And the reality is you can.
Yeah.
So, this small change in legislation, you can't throw out more than a ton of food, resulted in a whole different mindset about giving away imperfect food.
Yeah.
And you can see that sort of play out. It's great.
Well, what's exciting for us, we just started this last week. So everybody's all nervous about Amazon taking over Whole Foods and all of the implications that would. We just started picking up from Amazon Prime. They are now one of our largest donors of food.
Oh, you mean Amazon Fresh?
Yeah, Amazon Fresh.
Yes, I subscribe.
So, but what happens if they go out with a delivery and the person's not there? They can't just leave it. And so we end up benefiting from that. We're getting meat and vegetables. And when I first heard Amazon, I'm like, oh, what the heck are we going to be getting from them? And it is great food. People have great taste. And our clients are benefiting from it. We're filling up a van every other day. We're filling up 3,000 pounds with all this great food. So keep ordering online.
Wow, really interesting. So you've been in the field of charitable giving and not actually you call it nonprofit.
No, that's the term. You're going to think of that every time you say it.
I sure am. But can you tell us a little bit, what's the effect on you of sort of day after day hearing the stories of people, vulnerable people in need?
Well, the reality is, I'm the executive director. It's the people on the front lines. It's the volunteers. It's the food pantry manager. Those are people that are hearing them day after day. I have to make a conscious effort to hear those stories to keep myself grounded. And I think sometimes I've seen other nonprofits where executives and management don't do that, where they are it takes a lot to run an organization, to get the money together, to do all the things, the HR and the PR and all the stuff that goes into it. And it's easy to get caught up in that and lose sight of why you're really doing it. And you need to consciously be talking to clients. You need to find out, hear stories. I tell people my job, chief foremost, is to be a storyteller. That I tell our client's story, not our organization's story. And I try to keep it personal about people as much as I can when I go out and have speaking engagements or things like that. So as far as how it affects me, I'll give you a personal example last year. So last year, I was training our intern on how to do data entry for our holiday signups. So I sit down and I'm like, all right, this is how you do data entry. We're doing signups. We're registering people for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Let's get an application and start filling it out, and so that I can show you how to enter it into our database. We pick up the application, start entering it in, and I know the family. I look at it and I'm like, they live in my town. Oh, their son is the same age as my son. And I got home that night and I asked my son at dinner, I'm like, do you have a little boy with this name in your class? Oh yeah, he's great. He sits next to me. For me, that was the ultimate in bringing it home. This is somebody, these aren't nameless, faceless people out there. These are the kids literally sitting next to my kids at school that we're helping as an organization. Stories like that, I don't get them every day, but they really do sustain me and focus me and keep me grounded.
It's interesting when you say you work to stay grounded, because that's sort of how, I'll speak to myself, that's how I've perceived you.
Yeah.
I remember once at sort of a very nice event that we'll talk about a bit later, the gala, and the passion with which you were talking about diapers. You were almost in tears. People don't even know there is no federal program to help people with diapers. It's a huge expense for families with small kids. You were almost in tears, and it's it was definitely sort of thought-provoking and emotional.
Well, I have 3 little kids and, I know what it takes to buy those diapers. I know what it means to the families. I've been in the food pantry and given diapers to clients, and I've seen how grateful they are. And I do that. It would have been, time is tough. And I make that decision to go down and serve our clients so I can really speak to what's going on and not just a canned sort of approach. Like, I want to be able to speak from the heart because that's what's going on. I want people to understand really what our clients are facing. So I'm glad that's how it came across, because that's what I want to do. If I didn't make a conscious effort, I could be in my office all day because there's always something more to do. And I always say, no, I got to step away. I got to go down to the food pantry for a little while. So that supervision by walking around mentality, I hold to that.
Yeah, and I think pointing out things like diapers, things like personal products.
Yeah.
Things like, like washing. I don't know if you like laundry detergent.
Yep.
People don't realize none of that is covered by food stamps.
It's also just really expensive formula. I mean, formula is so expensive. And I remember, with Daniel, when he was little, he had some digestive issues. And every time we'd buy like the big, huge case of formula and we'd try one and be like, oh, well, that's not working. So bring like those 11 bottles to the food pantry because, again, formula is just outrageously expensive.
Let me give you something I think was interesting. It's our 70th anniversary. And so we started going through doing research about 70 years ago. And we looked at newspaper ads from 70 years ago. And we saw a home here in Hingham, an affluent town here in Greater Boston. It was $11,000 in 1947.
Oh, gosh.
Same home today is $600,000. You have dresses for $2. Today would be hundreds of dollars. But there was a local supermarket, Stop and Shop, was here in 1947. They're still here 70 years later. So are we. They had their Thanksgiving flyer, and turkeys were on sale for 59 cents a pound. That's still how much they weigh, how much they cost today.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. It blew my mind a little bit. But the reason I say that is because people still view that as such a luxury, the turkey, buying a turkey for Thanksgiving or whatever it is. But it's still the same cost. And it was really a luxury 70 years ago. And how there's some things where even though prices change, the feelings around them don't, the perceptions of them don't. And that's why lots of times the federal government doesn't use the word hunger. They say food insecure. And it is true. Our clients who the pantry doesn't open till 10 a.m. and they're there waiting at 7:30, 8 in the morning in line. They're going to get the food, but they're so insecure. They're so worried about being able to get the food. And that's why, the link, what your professional focus, your specialty, the reason you have this podcast, that link, the ramifications, the long-term consequences of hunger and how it can affect you psychologically, it's not enough has been studied about that. And not enough is talked about that.
Absolutely.
And it ties back to why counseling is such an important part of Interfaith. It's not just about food, which is great.
No.
But people need a lot more than that when they're going through these huge challenges in their lives. To have that extra support, someone to listen to them, problem solve with them, strategize with them, it's priceless, really.
Well, and it's that wraparound approach. Everybody thinks they segment things. Well, they need food. We're going to help with food. Well, they need this. They need everything.
Right.
And they is a lot of people. We use that term. It's there's no silver bullet for anything. And if you want to help somebody break a cycle, providing them with emergency food is not going to cut it. It's going to help them through, but you need to provide other resources to help break a cycle.
Absolutely. And I briefly worked with your homelessness prevention specialist, and that's sort of a huge piece of wraparound. I remember this one day. She had talked with somebody who had come in about, trying to prevent becoming homeless, and she had given them a small amount of money, like a voucher for the thrift store. And I was sort of like, why did you do that? I don't understand. We don't usually give out, straight small amounts of cash through that program. She'd given them, I don't know, a voucher for like $5, something like that. I'm like, why did you do that? And she was like, they don't have enough money to buy a pair of socks, and their socks have huge holes in them. And I just thought, they needed some clean socks.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, the sort of sensitivity to the bigger picture as well as the small things was something that was really impressive to me. And also just that thought that someone can be about to be homeless, but they still really need clean socks.
Yeah. And the thing that we see, it's not just clean socks. That's customer service. People talk about customer service in a retail setting or a business. Clients need to be treated with the same level of respect and compassion and love and gratitude that you would treat a donor or somebody else. That's what we try to cultivate amongst our volunteers, amongst our staff. That idea that just because somebody needs help doesn't mean they should be treated any less than anybody else. So it's the little bit that we can do to elevate their self-esteem, to give them a positive experience, and help them feel a little love.
Right.
We'll talk a little bit about the ways that you fundraise.
Sure.
To support these wonderful programs that we're hearing about.
Well, we have two main fundraisers. In the spring, we have our Stop the Stigma 5K, and that focuses around mental illness and around addiction recovery and around breaking the ideas and overcoming stereotypes. So it's rallying the community and the people. When we ask them why they participate in that event, people say, my sister was helped by your organization, or my spouse, or I was helped. And it is awesome to stand there and say, we are doing this together as a community. So that's one of our events to help raise awareness. It is an important fundraiser, but not our significant fundraiser. Our most significant fundraiser is our Feed the Hungry Gala. And it's our 20th anniversary gala this year, on our 70th anniversary as an organization.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's grown a lot, where it now accounts for closing in on a half of our operating budget for the whole year. Comes from one night.
Wow. That's major. That's impressive.
Scary is another way to say it. We never want any rainstorm or other catastrophe to happen on that day. But we put the fun in fundraiser. So we have local car dealer, whether it's Tesla or BMW, somebody's picking our guests up when they get out of their car, driving them to the front door. We have amazing restaurants that are there doing tastings. We have distilleries. I'm Mormon, so it's always weird talking about all the alcohol, but we have there's lots of alcohol at the event. And then we have games and raffle prizes, and we have a live band, and we have a dessert reception after the event. It is not the traditional fundraiser. Most of the time, you got a cocktail hour, and then you sit down for chicken dinner, and you make a donation, and they have a live auction, and then you leave. Ours is very different. It's a cocktail-style event. We have mostly open seating. And it's just about having a good time. We have different games going on throughout the whole evening, surprises. We just give away tickets to stuff. So it takes a lot of work to put it together, and it is incredible the support we receive from the community around it.
Well, I have to say, I've been going only, I think last year was my third year. It's gotten better every single year. Mm-hmm. I mean,
more surprises in store for this year.
Just every year it's gotten better. The first year was like, oh, this is really interesting. And you have the place where you do the silent auction items. And I mean, some of the stuff is really amazing. And then the live auction and all of that. But then you added a little app so you can track your thing.
Mobile bidding,
mobile bidding. Because the first night, all I did was just stand next to the thing I wanted all night long. I didn't get to do anything because I'm like, I will get this thing.
Did you get it?
I did.
All right.
What was it, Dr. Angela?
It was I still haven't even used I haven't used the gift certificate yet, but it was gardening and help with gardening and some stuff like that. But yeah, so now you can walk around with a mobile bidding. They had the games have gotten better and more fun, and there's more of them. And I mean, I think it's just gotten better every year. Well, so that's just my personal preference.
That's nice to hear.
When is it this year?
It is December 8th.
December 8th. It's on my calendar, but I'm not going to look it up.
Feedthehungrygala.org. Feed Hungry Gala, not Feed the Hungry. Feedhungrygala.org. We're on Facebook and Instagram and everything.
So for those who are local to our podcast, this is in Quincy, Massachusetts, that this occurs. So definitely look it up and think about coming, because it is a good time.
Or make a weekend out of it. Fly into Boston, come to the gala, and have a good time in Boston.
We have a lot of destinations. And
we do.
Things to see here.
Yeah, especially early December. I mean, the way the weather's looking, it'll probably be 70 degrees.
Hey, I won't complain.
Well, we also, Dr. Stephanie and I talked about wanting to make some sort of contribution to the gala as part of the Chasing the Mind podcast. And so for our listeners, on our website, for chasingthemind.com, we have a button that you can, it says Interfaith Gala for 2017, and you can hit that button. It'll take you to PayPal, and you can make a donation. And we're, yes?
Dr. Angela, how small of a donation can you make?
A donation of any amount will enter you into a contest.
Wow. And I bet we can win some wonderful prizes with even that small donation.
Yes. So Dr. Stephanie and I have talked about it, and we have said that for anybody who donates between now and the time of the gala, December 9th, a donation of any amount through our website, we will pick at random, and we will actually, if Rick is willing, we will go to see Rick, and he can pull a name out of a hat for us on a video.
Yeah.
And we were going to pick 2 winners, and those winners will have the choice of either being a guest on Chasing the Mind podcast.
Wait, they could be part of the podcast?
They could be on the podcast and promote whatever it is they want to promote, or talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Wow.
I know.
That's impressive.
Long as they use nice language.
I know.
We're a clean podcast.
We are a clean podcast, but
we can beep too.
We can beep, and also you can promote a product or talk about anything you want to talk about?
Yes. Or tell your story.
Wow.
Or, so they can either be a guest, or they will get an hour of coaching with either Dr. Angela or Dr. Stephanie.
Free coaching?
Free coaching.
A whole session?
A whole session.
Wow.
And coaching is not psychotherapy, but it is a focused session with someone who can help you problem solve or work through a particular issue that you're trying to work through, like job, career, relationship, whatever.
So it doesn't constitute a psychotherapy relationship, but as you've heard on our podcast, we are very smart and have some darn good advice.
Yes. So anyone who donates between now and December 9th, you will be entered into a contest, 2 winners at random, and you will get to have one of those wonderful prizes.
Actually, you will also get something extra, which is the research shows that when you give to a good charitable cause, when you help others, there's a mood improvement associated with that. So you will get that even if you don't win the other prizes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's this great study. Do you want me to talk about it?
You're
Too late. Actually, they did this great study where they gave people $20. They told one group to spend it on themselves, and they told the other group to spend it on someone else. And then they measured the mood, both before and after, of both groups. And guess what? The people who used that $20 to help someone else had a larger increase in their mood and a more sustained increase in their mood. So that can be yours just for a small donation to the gala through the Chasing the Mind podcast.
Yep.
Awesome.
Wow.
Can I add one thing to that? I believe it was the same exact study.
Oh, yeah.
They found that the more attractive a fundraiser is, the more money they raise. That blonde women raised the most money.
Really?
Yeah. So unfortunately, there were good and bad things that came out of that study.
There are some very, very attractive people associated with Interfaith Social Services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
that's not a hiring criteria.
Oh, absolutely not.
So is there anything we have not asked you about that you would like to discuss?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Well, I do want to say, I love that there are so many ways to give at Interfaith. We didn't even mention the career closet.
Career closet, thrift shop. Anybody who lives in the greater Boston area should come down. We're happy to throw in some gift certificates. There's another thing for your winner. Whoever your winner is,
nice.
We'll give some gift certificates to the thrift shop.
Terrific. But yeah, no, I just want to say, everybody's passionate about something different. I'm passionate about the backpack project because I want even low-income kids to start the school year with a positive view about education and the feeling that they belong in school, just like the rich kids do, and have a nice backpack full of fun supplies and maybe reduce that achievement gap.
Levels the field a little bit more, and every little bit helps. I just got to say, if I ever talk about the organization, the thing I have to say the most is the volunteers. It's always a shout out to the volunteers and how our organization could not exist without their help. So I know, your listeners might not live in the greater Boston area, but there is a local organization wherever they do live, and they should support that. Find that local organization, support it, donate your time, talent, and treasures, and help transform your community, because it starts at home. And by home, I mean your neighborhood.
And we should also mention you also, Interfaith also just got their rating.
We got the highest rating possible by Charity Navigator.
Yeah.
And again, that's because of a team. It's a great team of volunteers and staff. And it's because of everybody working together that we're still here 70 years later.
And that high rating, what does it mean?
It means that we are transparent, we are responsible, and that represents the idea. One of our governing principles is stewardship. The donations that we receive are not ours. They're not Interfaith's. We are simply stewards of the donations that we receive from individuals, and we take that responsibility very seriously.
So everyone definitely hop onto our page at chasingthemind.com. Hop on to chasingthemind.com and push that donate button. Get yourself entered for these wonderful prizes, and immediately you will feel great, or at least a little better.
Money back guarantee. No, just kidding.
No money back
I'll
guarantee.
edit that. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Chasing the Mind. Today's episode featured music from purpleplanet.com. Please visit our website at chasingthemind.com, where you can donate to Interfaith Social Services. And a big thank you to one of our first patrons, Brad Sultan. The doctors love you. Chasing the Mind is intended to provide information and entertainment and is not intended to substitute for professional mental health assessment or treatment. The opinions expressed by the doctors and the guests are their own and do not reflect professional advice. Information offered by the doctors does not create a therapist-client relationship. Please seek professional help with a mental health treatment provider if needed.